Now we're going to go on to one of the trees. It's one of the keystone trees of this area. It's become one anyways, and that's red maple. And red maple is a tree that a lot of horse people are familiar with, because if they hear about a horse dying of plant poisoning, it's very often red maple. I know of 2 instances where their horses have died from eating red maple. So we'll spend a little time with that. First, I'll show you how to identify it. This is just kind of a poor little specimen here, but we'll see some more. This is a tree that will become one of the dominant trees in the canopy. And, excuse me, it's becoming very, very common because as other tree species are stressed and they die out, like the beech and the hemlock and the ash, this is a tree that's taking over their spots. And the red maple is a typical mapley sort of leaf. When you think about the Canadian flag, I mean, that brings to mind that design. And when I say red maple being a plant to watch out for, I also mean all maples. And there are several different species of maples around here, but the red maple is the one that more than likely you probably have near your pasture, your field, or your home. And one thing I say about red maple that's kind of an easy thing to remember, it seems like there's always some part of the tree that's red throughout the year. So this time of year, the stem is red. All right. During the spring, the seeds that came out, the samaras, they were red. And before the flowers, before the seeds rather, the fruits, the flowers were red. And then during the fall, the leaves turn red. And during the winter and early spring, the tips of the twigs, the young twigs, are red. So it's a plant that, or a tree that always has something that's red about it. There's another way to identify maple compared to all the other trees around here. So that kind of will help you out. But just bear with me because you have to learn a little terminology. Let's see. I don't know if we got a bigger one around here. I guess not. Okay, let's do this. This is going to be talking about the placement of the twigs or the buds on a branch. And some trees, most trees, will have buds and twigs that are called alternate. So in other words, this is a beech. And looking at the little twigs here, this is called alternate placement. So when you have a twig here, you go up a little further, and here's a twig on the other side. And then you go up a little further, here's a twig on the other side. Okay? That's alternate, and most of the trees around here have alternate placement. But when you look at maple, you see how these stems and the twigs and the buds are opposite each other? And that's a sure sign of a maple. And there's not too many trees around here that have that. Dogwood does, and ash, but they're not as common. They're also not toxic. But maple, if you see, and we'll find a better example, but if you see that there's opposite placement of the leaves and the twigs and the buds, and it looks like a maple, it is a maple. Okay, if that helps at all. So, like I said, this is one of the most toxic plants. It's especially toxic when the leaves are wilted. So the problem occurs when, if you have a red maple on the side of your pasture, your field, your paddock, and this has happened, if during a storm, let's say, a branch falls into your horse's area and you're not thinking about it or you don't realize it, and it just lays there for a day or two, your horse is going to eat the leaves. And that's the problem, because whether they're just freshly fallen or if they're wilted, your horse will get sick. And they stay toxic for 30 days after they've wilted. So you want to get it out of there. You don't want to leave it. And the one instance I can especially remember, it's a friend's horse. She told me that the horse, I think, died because wilted maple leaves had blown into his area and he had eaten them. So it is a tree it's worth learning. And the good thing is, well, I guess it's a good thing, it's very common, so you can learn it very quickly.
No, all maples
I would say, you know, red maple is particularly, but I'm always cautious. I would say just any maple. Keep them away from sugar maple, Norway, striped maple, even box elder, which is a maple. Doesn't look like one, but it's a maple. Not common. Red maple's the one that's really common. I would just make sure if you have a nice big old specimen sugar maple in your front yard, you have an old house, just be aware in the fall that the leaves aren't blowing into your horse's area.